Good morning, I'm Sean, and thanks for joining me, if anybody's up yet, on today's morning huddle. You know, one of the things that we spend a lot of time on this and all of our other social media channels is this concept of being present in the moment, right? Being intentional. There are very few things, if you think about it. By the way, I apologize. I have no mic this morning. My mic is shut. There are very few things that go on in the dental office that are actually like autopilot, right? I mean, dentistry is a people business, and as such, intentions are very important. I mean, think about it. Confirmation calls, reinstatement calls, scheduling an appointment, presenting a financial, presenting a treatment plan. None of those things are can be relegated to being on autopilot, right? You got to be intentional. You've got to be clear about where it is that you're trying to go, and then you've got to some degree, sort of roll with the punches. Here's the challenge. How do you do that? I mean, people say it's philosophically, it's, focusing on where you want to go, attention to detail, all of those things. But I would submit if you don't reduce these things to a systematic approach, then basically it's left to chance, which means on a confirmation call, let's say, you're not going to get the result that you're after if the circumstances in that moment are pulling your focus away, right? So reducing it to a system is one of the most important things. So how do you do that? I think it's as simple as this. Having a 3-step process. Let's say confirmation calls. Okay, that's a really good example. If you're going to go down a list of confirmation calls and you're just picking up the phone and calling, picking up the phone and calling, picking up the phone and calling, that's an automatic autopilot kind of a thing. If you're not present, if you're not intentional, then you could call 50 patients, go through the motions of actually doing the confirmation, and not a single one of them are actually confirmed. You might as well reduce that or farm it out to electronic patient communication, right? I mean, reducing it to a process, a step process, is what's going to have you be successful. And I think it's as simple as this, right? Stating, number one, I don't know if you can hear my dogs. They're wanting to come in the basement because they hear me talking. I think it's as simple as, before you pick up the phone, now this will work with anything, right? But we're talking about confirmation calls. Good morning, Karen Baker. Thank you for joining me this morning on the Morning Huddle. I think it's as simple as, we're talking about being intentional. We're talking about not allowing things to be on autopilot, because that's where the best results live. And so I think it's as simple as reducing it to a 3-step process. Number one, before you take action, in the example of confirmation calls, before you pick up the phone and make the call, state in your mind, what is your intention? And that means you have to spell out what your intention is, right, before you go make the call and take the action. On a confirmation call, your intention is to engage the patient, to make sure the patient is paying attention to you, and actually in your gut feel whether or not that confirmation is legitimate, right? You can't reduce that to autopilot, and you can't farm it out to a patient communication process. So number one, state your intention to yourself before you pick up and take the action. Number two, I think it boils down to taking the action on purpose after you've paused. Good morning, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining me on the Morning Huddle. So what we're talking about is, how do you take the concept philosophically of being intentional so that you're getting better results, rather than just being on autopilot, whether that's confirmation calls, reinstatement calls, whether it's presenting a financial, presenting a treatment plan, scheduling an appointment. I mean, none of these things are going to be as successful as they could be if they're reduced to like being on autopilot, right? So how do you make it intentional? Number one, here's what I tell you to do. Before you make that confirmation call or whatever the situation is, state in your mind what is your intention and get clear on that. And then number 2, pause for a moment. Figure out what it is that you're going to do in terms of action to be able to accomplish that intention. And then 3, take the action. That may sound very simplistic. Good morning, Travis. That may sound very simplistic, but you know what? It's a way to be intentional. If you're not getting where you want to be in the systems in your practice, having a conversation with your team simply like, guys, we got to pay more attention to detail, or guys, you know what? You can't reduce this to just autopilot. You got to be focused in the moment. Those all sound great, but none of them are going to get you any better results because there's so many circumstances. Good morning, Nicole. Thank you for joining me on the Morning Huddle. None of those philosophical things are going to get you where it is that you want to go. So having an approach and having a process to being intentional is what will do it. Number 1, before you take action, before you just go out and do a confirmation call, stop, take a minute, and state your intention. What is it you're trying to do in this call that you're about to make? Number 2, pause. Get clear in your mind how you're going to implement that. And then number 3, simply take action. Those 3 things, if you communicate that with your team in a step process and you guys get clear, look, this is how we're going to be successful, those 3 steps will make a dramatic difference. Now, I know some of you guys are thinking, I'm so good at multitasking. I heard a stat this morning on the radio where they've actually proven, I don't want anybody to get upset at me when I say this, but they've actually proven that multitasking is not real. It doesn't work. And they've proven this over a series of studies. What they've proven basically is this: multitasking is simply shortening your attention span and doing so many things at once that none of them get the attention that is really required. They've proven this over and over again. Instead of trying to multitask, slow down, right? We got to focus on one thing at a time, using those 3 steps, being intentional. And if you think about it, nothing in the dental practice is autopilot, right? Everything you're doing involves people. Treatment presentations, scheduling of appointments, confirmations, reinstatements, all of those things are people things, right? You can't just autopilot, turn off your brain and go do it, right? You're not going to get the results you're after. And you guys know this because you've spent time and energy making, let's say, confirmation calls, and then nobody shows up, and you call that patient and you go, is everything okay? Oh, yeah. The patient goes, yeah, what's up? Well, you had an appointment today. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, we spoke yesterday, and you were going to be here. That wasn't me, right? So, you can't reduce those things to steps. You got to be intentional. And at the end of the day, being intentional with those steps is what's going to have a huge impact, not only on the results of your team and your practice, but you know what? The effort that you're spending doing something is going to yield you a much bigger reward. So instead of just doing the work and not getting a result, like you're really seeing results from the effort that you're doing. And over time, it requires less effort. And at the end of the day, that's what it is that I would love for you to have. Much better results with a whole lot less effort. I apologize for the audio. I got no mic. My mic is shot. And so at the end of the day, it's all about you guys having happier clients, better results, making more money, and that's what it is that I want for you. I'm Sean, and thanks for joining me, everybody, on today's Morning Huddle. Hope you have a great day.